I have mixed feelings about Nancy Drew, the Silent Spy. It's got some really good stuff. I like how it's a spy thriller where Nancy saves the world. I love learning about Nancy's mother. I don't like the culprit reveal, or how the characters are so separated from each other. It feels like Alec and Moira have no idea the other characters even exist. There's also dropped storylines, like who stole Nancy's suitcase, who kidnapped Moira, and the biggest one, who killed Nancy's mother? Yeah, it's great Nancy saved the world, but I came here to this game to catch Kate's killer, not to do a jigsaw puzzle with cards. The game starts with Nancy getting a letter from a Scottish spy group named Cathedral. They suspect Nancy's mother was killed by terrorists 8 years ago. They are bringing Nancy to Glasgow, which is where Kate died, in order to investigate. We get a brief flashback of Nancy's mom receiving a phone call. I love how we get to see what Kate looks like in this game. It's probably the closest we'll ever get to seeing Nancy in the series.
I could be wrong, but it sounds like Kate and Nancy have the exact same voice, only they edited Kate's audio like this to make it sound slightly different.
Nancy's plane ticket comes with a picture of her mom at the train station. Nancy goes there and says, "This is where Mom was in that picture." Okay, now what? I never understood why Nancy does this. Why does she think it's important to reenact this picture? Someone steals Nancy's luggage and runs away. Alec gives chase, but the thief gets away. Alec's conversation with Nancy has 3 screens, and I think they're out of order. First, Nancy and Alec introduce themselves. Second, Nancy thanks Alec for his offer. Third, Alec offers to find Nancy's suitcase. That's out of order, right? Nancy thanks Alec for his offer before he makes it. Like the last game, a lot of the conversations feel like they're mixed up, out of order, or missing parts. I don't like the conversations, but I can overlook that big problem because the next game's conversations will be 100 times worse. Nancy goes to her hotel room where she gets a phone call from her spy contact, Ewan. He tells you to memorize your case file, then promises to call back when he's done with some stuff. He hangs up before Nancy can say anything. I don't like this. Ewan throws Nancy into major danger without any help or guidance. He can't be bothered to tell her anything of value or check in on her occasionally. I think it would have worked better if Ewan had been a normal phone contact that you can call at any time during this first part of the game. So here's Nancy's case file. It says there's been a double cross. Nancy was brought here by Revenant, not Cathedral. I remember this letter really confused me the first time I played the game because it is a 2-page info dump, and it's the first time that the name Revenant is used. Kind of ruins the big plot twist with Revenant when players don't know what Revenant is. Cathedral could send Nancy home right away, which would foil the terrorist plan. But that would make for a boring game. So they give Nancy orders to find Kate's friend, reporter Moira Chisholm. The case file fails to mention that Moira is a former spy, which is a pretty big omission. When Nancy leaves her room, she meets Bridget, who insists on being Nancy's new best friend, because she loves Americans. I think Bridget is super annoying, and she forces herself on Nancy so much that it's obvious she's a spy. I don't understand why Zoe picked such an obnoxious personality to befriend Nancy. There are plenty of culprits in this series who did a much better job of pretending to be a friend. In fact, I think the game might be better without Bridget. Have Zoe be herself the whole time, and replace the Bridget as a spy plot twist with the Zoe is Samantha Quick plot twists. And Bridget is important because she gives Nancy a book when you select that conversation option. Cathedral warned Nancy to trust no one. She ignores these instructions and asks Alec to find Moira. Nancy, finding Moira was your spy mission. Passing it on to Alec is cheating. Alec leaves, and Nancy gets a call from Revenant. They have an eerie ringtone and a creepy disguised voice. The entire thing screams, "We're the villains! Don't trust us!" Revenant says they're testing Nancy. She has to take an envelope from Locker 49 and put it in a mailbox in Gift Nook. As a reward, Nancy will get an audio recording of her mom. I like how you have the option of not cooperating with Revenant. I usually do cooperate with them, because you have to go to Gift Nook anyway to get a menu, a screwdriver, and shears. The recording sounds like a message from Kate to Moira. Kate says the remaining Revenant operatives are following her. She is calling from certain places. If you figure out the pattern to the calls, you can find her. And oh my gosh, I wish we could have solved this puzzle. It sounds like a good puzzle. When Alec returns, he says Moira is in Bear's Den. Nancy easily finds Moira's house, no address needed. Moira refuses to talk unless you get her food. Moira asks for 5 different types of food, which is a lot to ask of a stranger. Nancy uses the menu to identify the foods at the stand outside the hotel. It's an okay puzzle. You can also make cookies at the stand. Cookie making is a great puzzle. It's fun. The cookies look delicious. Each cookie has 2 different layers, with 4 different fillings and 4 different toppings. Besides making cookies, the other way to earn money in this game is to find flashes of light, like this one. It's how we got quarters in Secrets Can Kill Remastered. Nancy's father calls. He is angry and demands that Nancy return home right away. I kind of like seeing the scared and emotional side of Carson, although he's obviously not as popular as the friendly Carson we see in other games. When Moira realizes who Nancy is, she quickly lets Nancy inside. It sounds like Nancy could have avoided the food puzzle if she had just introduced herself like a normal person. Moira shows a photo of Kate with baby Nancy, and she shares the memory of Nancy breaking all her teacups. The conversation is interrupted by angry knocking at the door. I don't know why the kidnappers knock for a minute before coming inside. It's like they're trying to give Moira time to escape. Nancy has a puzzle to pick the correct hiding spot, which is the closet. If she picks the wrong hiding spot, the kidnappers search the house and they find her. Moira has just enough time to tell Nancy about the teapot puzzle before the kidnappers break into the house and forcibly abduct her. Moira later sends you a text saying, "I made it through all right and am back home." That is all the explanation we get for who kidnapped her, why they kidnapped her, what happened during her abduction, and how she got away. I don't blame all the players who get really mad about the Moira storyline. She is kidnapped and the game completely ignores it. She comes back later and everybody acts like nothing happened. You know the game has a bad story when it forgets about the major kidnapping. It's almost like they finished the game and realized the first hour is too boring, so they went back and threw in a fake kidnapping to trick players into thinking this is an exciting spy adventure. You can now search Moira's house. She has some wires over here. She's got a book on tartans. Look under the teapot for a number. It's a math puzzle. The closet has breakers. Each breaker is a different number. You want to get them to add up to the number on the teapot. It's an okay puzzle. Solving the puzzle gives you a music box that's going to live on Nancy's task list for most of the game. We have a key to the safe house at Loch Lomond. And we have a folder of letters from Kate. They reveal Moira and Kate communicated via fake personal ads. Kate discovered some kind of pattern with dates and locations. Kate was concerned Moira never recovered from Michael's death. Just like the kidnapping, none of this stuff will be mentioned again. We never learn who Michael is, what pattern Kate discovered. It's all a waste of time. I think the game would be far better if these letters from Nancy's mom served more of a purpose. We get about 5 sets of Kate letters. Most of them follow this pattern of mysterious sounding spy stuff that doesn't get explained. They add some flavor to the narrative, but part of me wishes they were eliminated from the game entirely. It'd be just fine if Nancy only found the 2 letters that are important, which is this one and the second one. Truth be told, I always skip through the letters. There's 12 of them. That's too many for me. I always lose interest around the third or fourth one. Maybe I'm just lazy like that. On the way to Loch Lomond, Nancy has a flashback. She and Bess are talking on walkie-talkies. I love how we get to hear young Nancy's voice. They got an actual kid to play Kid Nancy. That's so cool! And it seems kind of weird that there is not a kid playing Kid Bess. That's normal adult Bess. Nancy overhears her parents fighting. Carson yells that Kate is breaking her promise. Kate storms off saying, "Grow up, Carson." Yeah, grow up, Carson. It's not like she's going to die or anything. Just like Moira's house, Nancy easily finds the safe house without an address or directions. I'm not sure they should have called this location a safe house when it's so public and obvious. In real life, safe houses are hard to find. That's the whole point. You can stay in a safe house for weeks without being discovered by enemy spies. But of course, the game would be boring if Nancy spent the next few hours inside a tiny room, so she comes and goes as she pleases. For a place that has not been touched in 8 years, it sure is in great shape. We have this private archery arena. I assume it's private because only Moira and Kate are on the leaderboard here. Maybe other spies have been training, but they all got low scores, so they're not on the high score list. I really do like this archery challenge. You have to hit a moving target, and when you release your mouse button, you release the arrow. Ooh, bullseye. If you get a high score, Nancy gets her very own bow. The arena also has a workout area with a punching bag and a bagpipe, because of course they have a bagpipe puzzle in a Scottish game. It's missing a piece. You need to buy the bagpipe piece from the train station in order to fix the bagpipe. There is a book about bagpipes, which is added to Nancy's inventory, and a book about archery, which is not added to the inventory. I guess the archery arena thinks bagpipes are more important than archery. Use Moira's key to open up the cabin to the left. The last page of the letter says tune into the Declaration of Arbroath, which is inside the book that Bridget gave you. When you enter in the correct date, the cabin transforms into a super cool looking spy area. I love it. I wish we got to interact with the spy stuff. There's this whole cabinet of spy gear, some sort of green monitor over there, and I don't even know what that is. It looks really cool. The only thing Nancy can interact with is this simple computer on the desk. Nancy, you can play with the computer at home, okay? The computer has 5 icons, but the only one that's working is a series of Kate letters. You only have to read the first one, so Nancy knows the Jabberwocky poem is important. This is when Ewan calls. He asks to see Nancy in person. The elevator card is in her safe. The combination is the room number times the price of haggis. Nancy asks why. Ewan says, "Why not?" Because it's arbitrary and I don't have a calculator on me. That's why not. It's definitely not a math problem I can do in my head. The solution is 3635. 10 seconds after Ewan calls, Nancy gets that text message from Moira saying she made it through okay and she's back at home. You can talk to Moira about many things. The big one is Moira's confession that she lied to Kate about their security detail. There was no security detail. Moira blames this lie for Kate's death. You have to ask how Kate was involved with the colony operation, then ask if Moira has anything to help you. Moira gives you a book which has an interesting story. Kate says Revenant was in their planning phase. They made football fans gather in a public place and stare at the sky for a long time. They did that in dozens of cities on multiple occasions. How on earth did Revenant pull off that feat? It sounds like mass hypnosis. If Revenant wants to take over the government, maybe they should use their hypnosis powers on Election Day, instead of pursuing the virus attack. This is where we first hear about the virus attack storyline. It feels totally different after the 2020 coronavirus pandemic. Revenant's idea is to produce a virus which will cause at least 20% of the population to be sick in bed. They will take advantage of the emergency situation to seize political power and control. Vaccines are part of their plot. When you leave Moira's, Nancy has a flashback of her mom playing piano. Young Nancy confronts Kate over her plans to leave them. Kate wishes she could tell Nancy everything, but she can't. Nancy throws these words back in her mom's face. It's so dramatic. Back at Loch Lomond, there is a book over here. It has the password for the fireplace. That matches up with the letters from this picture. You want to spell out the password on the fireplace. This reveals a safe. To open the safe, you need to follow the rules on the first page of Mom's book. It's a simple logic puzzle. It's okay, nothing too special. The safe has a bug, Kate's MP3 player, and a journal with joke entries from Kate and Moira. It's not that funny, especially the sad part at the end, written after Kate's death. I do like the idea of having a silly Kate journal to balance out all of her overly serious journals. When Nancy returns to her hotel room, she sees that Alec found her suitcase. She opens it up to discover Mom's stuff is missing. Nancy says stuff, as in more than one thing. But when she talks to Alec and Ned about it, she says only one thing is missing. Mom's Jabberwocky poem. Fortunately, Nancy thought ahead and took pictures of it with her phone. Haha, just kidding. Considering all the thieving spies in this game, though, it would be a good idea for her to save pictures of everything. Nancy asks Ned to break into her house and steal the original poem. This is a pretty intense conversation. I honestly like the stuff with Ned in this game. I think it cancels out the not-so-good Ned fight in the Captive Curse. Ned is funny and supportive, far better than Carson. Ned is a good boyfriend, but a bad thief. Carson catches Ned in the act. We get a great phone call where Carson tells Ned, "Shut up, Ned," multiple times. Ned sticks up for Nancy and convinces Carson that Nancy can handle herself. Can she, though? Nancy's mom was killed, and she had far more spy experience and knowledge than Nancy does. The next time you visit Nancy's hotel room, the Jabberwocky poem is taped to her door. I know the developers wanted to put it in an obvious place where players couldn't miss it, but this is top secret spy stuff. At least slip the envelope under the door or something. If I was the culprit, I would steal the real poem and replace it with a fake where all the colors are swapped. Nancy would have no way to tell the difference. The MP3 player needs to be plugged in inside Nancy's room. When Nancy does this, she discovers someone planted a bug in her electrical outlet. That feels like it should be a big deal. Someone broke into Nancy's room. Her security's been compromised. But instead of telling anyone, Nancy just ignores it and continues treating her room like a safe place to keep things, including the all-important deck of cards. The MP3 player has messages from Mom. As Nancy says, she has no idea what they mean. The important message is follow the Raven to the archives. The first time I played the game, I got so stuck on this puzzle. I guess the developers thought the solution was obvious because they did not include the solution on the task list hints. Follow the Raven to the archives means the word Raven is a computer password. Maybe they should have put the word archives on the computer at all times to make this more obvious. Archives only appears on the computer the first time you use it, and even then, it's the last word of 3 sentences. It does not stand out much. The puzzle is still tough, even if you know the word archives refers to the computer. The clue is follow the Raven to the computer. I think the game is missing a step between that and Raven is a computer password. When you leave Nancy's room, she is going to see a scene with Bridget right here. Bridget is in her room across the courtyard. She turns around slightly. Nancy says, "That's suspicious." I don't know what's suspicious about moving around when using your phone. My guess is that players are supposed to think Bridget is scanning the room for bugs, but this scene doesn't look like that. Maybe if her phone was replaced with a large, weird-looking device, then the scene would be suspicious. This scene makes Nancy decide to break into Bridget's room. It's pretty typical of Nancy to invade somebody else's privacy on a flimsy basis like, I saw you turn around in your room. The fly bug is for Alec. You have to talk to him about finding Nancy's suitcase. The next time you visit the train station, Alec is gone. He left behind a blue piece of paper here. I once got stuck in the game because I did not notice the blue paper in this plant. It's small, it fits in quite well. It says something about the occupied seat cushion. You want to pull the chair down for a puzzle. I like this puzzle. You want to rotate the 4 rings so each circle is a different color. I wish they had a different variation of this puzzle elsewhere in the game. That's how much I like it. Maybe they could have a version with 6 circles instead of 4. Solving the puzzle reveals a threatening note with blackmail implications. The next time you visit the train station, Alec has left his bag behind. Put the bug inside. Use the computer at the safe house to hear one of Alec's calls. Alec angrily says he's followed the orders and he wants to talk to her now. Both the note and the phone call are vague enough that you don't know for sure what's going on with Alec until the end of the game, when he says Revenant has kidnapped his sister. Nancy uses the card from her safe inside the elevator. This makes a new button, which leads her to Cathedral headquarters. Ewan greets her with an awesome shirt and complaints about his code name. I don't like Ewan. I want to, but I don't. He openly admits he's a big fan of double talk and deception, so he pours an extra large helping of it into every conversation, making it hard to understand what he's saying a lot of times. He would definitely fit in with everyone in the Shattered Medallion, since he loves playing dumb word games and trying to sound impressive. I was expecting the opposite. He is Nancy's spy contact. He should be the character who gives her direct answers, the character she can most trust. At the start, Ewan gave Nancy the mission of finding Moira. Ewan never talks to her about the mission, and he doesn't give Nancy a new mission now that the first one is over. Is he really here to watch Nancy? He seems like more of a tech guy than anything else. The Cathedral base has computer servers on one side. If you set the temperature too low or too high, Ewan gets mad at you. There's even a game over sequence tied to the computer temperatures. It says a lot that Ewan cares more about cold computers than about protecting Nancy from being killed. The other side of the base has a locked case and a computer. It's a cool looking computer. Like, you click on a file and all the other files move around. It's so cool, makes it hard to find any particular file, but it looks cool anyway. The computer has current records on all of Nancy's friends, as well as 6 of Kate's password-locked files. It's rude of Cathedral to say, here are the files you need to stay alive. Oops, sorry, we forgot to unlock most of them. Ha ha. When you leave Cathedral, Revenant calls with another test. They want Nancy to cut the line of the train station trash compactor. Nancy's reward is another audio message, which frustrates me because it leaves out all the good stuff. Kate wants someone to contact her family because they have to find out something. We never hear the rest of the sentence. For all we know, Kate wanted her family to have her secret donut recipe. Nancy asks Ewan for a way to spy on Bridget. He gives Nancy a zipline. Use it on Bridget's window for a puzzle. You want to hit the center of the spinning disc while it's not moving. I have no idea what the spinning disc is. I also wonder what happens to the arrows that miss. Do they just fall down to the ground and hit people below? The scene of Nancy ziplining into Bridget's room is really cool. I love the music here. Near Bridget's bed is a list of everything Nancy has done in Scotland. This list is fairly incomplete. I guess Bridget missed out on everything with Moira and the cabin. The word MacLorthin is on this page. To unlock Bridget's phone, you need to recreate the MacLorthin-Tartan pattern. There's a bunch of overlapping colors. This puzzle is a huge pain. I don't like it. I don't think anybody does. I wouldn't be surprised if Bridget made her lock screen as annoying as possible just to punish any spies who try to break into her phone. Bridget has text messages about a dead drop outside the hotel. Nancy decides to steal whatever it is that Bridget is getting. That's awesome spy stuff, but super dangerous. I find it weird Nancy takes such a huge risk for an unknown item. It'd make more sense to me if she had some idea of what she was stealing, or if Ewan told her to stop the dead drop. Nancy leaves the room through the zipline. Whenever I play the game, people complain, "You can't use a zipline to go upwards." Gravity doesn't work like that. I say this is clearly a spy zipline with some kind of retractable function. The dead drop is at the plaque, which is behind Bridget. Nancy has to go here 3 times. I find it odd that Nancy has to distract Bridget the first time and the 3rd time, but not the 2nd time. Why does the 2nd time not count? I always worry Bridget will turn around and catch Nancy leaving the money for the drop. The first time you have to distract Bridget by saying, "Spies are going to her room." Bridget yells, "What?" and leaves. So the distraction works, but now Bridget knows her cover is blown. Nancy should have picked a better distraction. Use the screwdriver on the plaque for a canister puzzle. That I like. You have to move the canisters left and right. You can rotate a canister, which is inside the circle. It's a variation of the putting rings on pegs puzzle that we've seen in other games. Solving the puzzle gives you the instructions to put a blue bag with 35 pounds into the trash can. Nancy's next distraction is directly accusing Bridget of spying on her. Bridget seems happy that her cover is blown because it means she doesn't have to do a Scottish accent anymore. She tells Nancy to go home or she'll die. Then she wanders off. Nancy gets the dead drop, which is a pair of spy glasses for Zoe Wolf. Nancy asks Ewan to check the glasses for her. I love how that's the only thing she runs by him before using. When Nancy leaves the hotel, she meets the real Zoe Wolf. I think Zoe is probably the best character of the game, but like everyone else, her conversations are too mixed up for me. The first thing Zoe says is, "I know you stole my glasses." Nancy's response is, "Why didn't you say they were missing?" Which sounds like a response to a totally different statement. Also, I've noticed the same dialogue is repeated word for word in more than one Zoe conversation. Despite my complaints, talking to Zoe is usually fun. Sadly, she doesn't have much to say besides ordering Nancy to go home over and over again. Ewan gives Zoe's glasses back to Nancy, saying there's nothing interesting on them. When Nancy asks what they do, Ewan says, "I don't know." If you don't know what they do, then why do you think it's safe for Nancy to have them? Ewan upgrades the security on the elevator with a password and voice print recognition, even though Nancy never uses the voice print option. It is a mean move on Ewan's part to not tell Nancy what the new password is. She figures it out using the spy glasses. So Ewan doesn't know what the glasses do, but he still sets up a puzzle that requires using them. I think we can confirm Ewan's lying about something. The elevator puzzle is simple. The solution is to press the buttons from the largest hexagon to the smallest one. There's nothing to indicate you start with the largest, but that is how the fingerprint puzzles worked in previous games. After you solve the puzzle, there's a scene of Zoe robbing the locked spy gear cabinet. I don't know why Zoe says nothing during this scene. Maybe she is the silent spy. Ewan comes in and immediately accuses Nancy of breaking the cabinet, which is so unfair. Ewan's mad because Zoe stole his one-of-a-kind drone bugs. I get why he's mad, but at the same time, there was an earlier conversation where Ewan complained he can't fix the cabinet lock, it's too broken. So it's not like he could have used anything in the cabinet. It's almost like Zoe did Ewan a favor by robbing him, because now the cabinet can be opened. This is a fun puzzle. You click on groups of colors in order to get rid of them. You have to figure out the correct order so you can clear the board and open the cabinet door. I like this puzzle, but I should note, it's silly the puzzle exists. Zoe left a big hole in the glass door. Nancy could easily use that to get at the spy gear. The spy gear is one of Kate's Cipher wheels, and another audio bug. This one looks like a dragonfly. You hide it in the vase in Zoe's room. Revenant calls with a new test. They want you to bug Ewan's computer. Unlike the first two tests, this one is not optional. Distract Ewan by setting off the temperature alarm, then hide in Bay 1 when he comes to see what's wrong. Open the drawer under Ewan's main computer, use these spy glasses, and the wire clips from Moira's for a puzzle. You have to put all the wires on the board while making sure they don't overlap. You can rotate them. I think it's a good puzzle, although I don't like it enough that I enjoy doing it twice in this game. Once was enough for me. Nancy's reward is an audio clip of Kate, who's realized she doesn't have backup. She's being followed by 2 black cars. Thanks to the wiretap, Nancy intercepts one of Ewan's emails on the safe house computer. Somebody sent Ewan a picture of Kate. It's split up into 17 different rectangles. You have to swap the different rectangles until the picture is complete. Since there are 10 letters, it's easy enough to solve the puzzle. The 10 letters double as musical notes. You have to play the notes on the bagpipes in the arena. This puzzle is fine. It's just long, especially since you have to reset the fingering after every note. I think Amateur Sleuth should have had 6 notes for this puzzle instead of 10. Solving the puzzle gives you a record. Play the record at Moira's to hear Kate explain the Jabberwocky puzzle. It's the first of green, second of orange, and so on. Clearly, you need to match these instructions with the colored words in Kate's Jabberwocky poem. That is, the first letter of the green word, second letter of the orange word, and so on. There are little marks underneath the important words. Solving the puzzle gives you the password, which is a series of random letters. At least, I think that's how the puzzle should work. What actually happens is that the game sends you to a completely different puzzle that has nothing to do with colors or numbers. I don't understand why the game switches tracks in the middle of the puzzle. People have guessed that the testers complained the original puzzle was too difficult, so the developers replaced it with a completely new puzzle. Only they forgot to remove the clues for the original version of the puzzle. If I made this puzzle, I would have the poem appear on the left-hand side of the screen with Kate's instructions on the right. Players would type in the answers to the questions, what is the first of green, what is the second of orange, and so on. You could argue that's too easy, but it's better than switching puzzles at the very end. I have one more complaint. Even if you have the poem and you've listened to the puzzle instructions, you can't solve the puzzle. First, Nancy needs to use the password Raven on the Cathedral computer to find a file that says, listen to the record and follow the instructions. I think it's dumb that this is a necessary step. Nancy won't solve the puzzle until she's told, follow the puzzle instructions. Does she really need to be told to follow them? It should be obvious that she has to follow puzzle instructions to solve a puzzle. The first time I played the game, things came to a grinding halt for over an hour because the game insists Nancy can't solve a puzzle until she's explicitly told, well, you should solve the puzzle. The Jabberwocky puzzle morphs into a simple cryptograms puzzle, which we saw in game 26. The solution is type in caretakers at cabin computer for scientist's number. That is, caretakers is a computer password It gives you the phone number of the scientist who invented the virus. This guy is a jerk. He has no regrets about making the virus. He refuses Nancy's help, and he purposely leaves all of his work behind for Revenant to find. According to Ewan's next email, that's exactly what happens. Revenant goes to the scientist's house, they take the formula for the virus and the vaccines. I hate to say it, but that should be game over. The terrorists have the virus. They won. And yet the game continues with Nancy and everyone else trying to get the formula from the cards. Why? There's no point in protecting the formula anymore. The terrorists already have it. There are exciting plot twists surrounding the cards, yes, but it's ultimately a large waste of time that doesn't change what happens. There are two scenes after calling the scientist. First is a flashback where Nancy's mom forces her to play piano. She says that parts of the song represent Carson and Nancy. It is a good song, by the way. I hope they rehired whoever did the music for this game. The second scene the scientist triggers is a phone call from Revenant. They ask her for the scientist's phone number. When she refuses, they taunt her with a recording of her call to the scientist. Revenant threatens to kill Nancy, saying, "You will not escape. You will not survive." The first step of the card puzzle is putting the bug in Zoe's room. Listen to it at the cabin to hear the passphrase for Zoe's safe. It's behind the painting in her room. Use the spy glasses to see the symbols on the wall. Combine that with the Queen Mary book to spell out the passphrase. Zoe's safe has all of the cards except one ace. So that's 98% of the formula. Realistically, that should be enough for the government spies. Zoe has many fake passports, including one for Samantha Quick from Phantom of Venice. I think it was a good idea to bring Samantha Quick back for the spy game, but the execution is bad. Nancy has one conversation about Samantha, where Nancy misspeaks and says, "Samantha's an alibi." Zoe says it's so rude to steal someone else's alias, and that's it. I'm disappointed because the inclusion of Samantha Quick could have been so much more. Zoe's safe also has a coded paper. It matches 7 blue pieces, which are scattered around Zoe's room. I think finding all the pieces is tough, even if you're following the instructions on the task list. Use the pieces on Zoe's paper. It's a jigsaw puzzle. You want to put the pieces on the board to cover up every spot. This gives you the password to the locked red files in the Cathedral computer. Don't ask me how Zoe got this password. I don't know. The important red file says Kate hid each card individually in secure locations. Could you imagine if we had to find every single card in this game? I guess it'd be a lot like finding eyeballs in Legend of the Crystal Skull. That might not be too bad, come to think of it. The file says you need to soak the cards in water to open them. Put them in the vase in Nancy's room. For the ace, you have to use the Cipher wheel from Cathedral on the Cipher at the cabin. You have to line up a bunch of symbols in the correct order according to various pictures that were scattered all over Kate's notes. I don't like this puzzle. I think I'd like it better if we were spelling out actual words instead of strange symbols. When you're done, you rotate the 4 groups in order to spell out the real message, which is music themes reveal ace. Nancy says she has to call her dad to get the music. I'm glad Nancy says that out loud, because I would not have figured out that music themes reveal ace means call Nancy's father. That's a harder puzzle than follow the Raven to the archives as a computer password. After asking Carson for the music, calling the scientist, and putting the cards in Nancy's room, there is a scene where Nancy's room is ransacked. Alex shows up out of nowhere. A red sight appears on Nancy's forehead. Alec pushes Nancy to safety as gunshots fire. It's such a dramatic scene. I like it, even though at this point in the game I'm usually tired and want to wrap things up. Nancy goes into the elevator by herself. Why didn't she bring Alec with her? The lights suddenly turn off and she's taken to the Cathedral. She finds Ewan in the corner, tied up with rope. He claims that 2 men attacked him so they could search the room. Just like Moira's kidnapping, we never learn what happened. Presumably, Ewan faked being attacked, but why? Is it just a coincidence that Ewan staged a fake attack right after Alec staged a fake attack? Ewan says things are too dangerous now, and he's arranging for Nancy to be taken back home. He refuses to take no for an answer. Luckily for Nancy, Ewan doesn't follow through on this threat. The next time Nancy returns to her room, it's completely cleaned up like nothing happened. The only thing left behind is Alec's laser pointer. Nancy confronts Alec, who confesses that the attack and gunshots were fake. Revenant kidnapped Alec's sister, and they ordered him to steal the cards from Nancy's room. I'm not sure why he went through all the trouble of staging the attack. He could have just left the room a mess after finding the cards. That would have been a lot less work for him. Alec quickly goes away instead of explaining anything further. His instructions were to put the cards in locker 36. Nancy goes to that locker and takes the cards back. Good thing Revenant is slow with dead drops. Nancy's dad sends her the sheet music. This is a puzzle. You want to enter the highlighted notes into the box in Moira's closet. This gives you the ace. Put all the cards in Nancy's vase for a jigsaw puzzle. You need to put all these cards together. They snap into place when you get them correct. This is a pretty tough puzzle, which usually takes a long time to get through. It always seems to bring the game's progress to a grinding halt, especially since it's a slow moment after a good deal of excitement. Zoe arrives in the elevator. Nancy stands and does nothing as Zoe steals the cards from her. Zoe goes back in the elevator and presses a button. The very next second, Nancy's standing behind Zoe as the elevator doors close. That's kind of weird. How did Nancy get inside the elevator? The elevator shakes and it fills with green gas. Zoe warns Nancy to sit down, but Nancy ignores her. This is exciting. Like, Nancy gets a formula, it's stolen from her immediately, and then it's immediately stolen again by someone else. There is another flashback scene where Kate encourages Nancy to keep trying at piano. She has flashes of the train station, the fake attack in her room, and 2 close-ups of Zoe's eyes. Nancy wakes up with Zoe inside a trash compactor. Zoe is more concerned with making jokes than she is with helping. Although, to be fair, she's already done everything she can. The only thing left to do is solve the slider puzzle on Nancy's side of the compactor. Because of course it has a slider puzzle instead of an off switch. Nancy and Zoe talk during the puzzle. The conversation is good enough, it distracts me. Nancy's somewhat inspirational, as she says she won't stop just because she's out of her league. Zoe is so impressed, she agrees to work with Nancy from here on out. I wish the game jumped directly from this scene to the ending section. Instead, we get a 10-minute interlude, which is not all that interesting. Nancy says she's been tracking everyone, which is a lie. She says Ewan took her computer tap offline. He did? When? How does Nancy know this? Zoe gives Nancy a second set of wires, so Nancy does the wiretapping puzzle again. No need to distract Ewan this time. He's just gone without an explanation. Like this isn't a high-security location that needs constant protection. Nancy gets an email from Ewan detailing his success in getting the formula and manipulating everyone else. He says that, as instructed, he left a 2-toned animal coin, which opens locker 42. I've played this game many times. I still don't know what a 2-toned animal is. Good thing Nancy says this must be the right coin, so I don't have to guess which it is. Nancy uses Ewan's coin on the locker, which opens up a cool-looking hidden area. There's a list of messages Ewan has received from Revenant, which proves Ewan's the culprit. Reading the page for this review, I got distracted by the times. Apparently, Nancy's been in Scotland 4 days, and the trash compactor scene was 13 hours ago. I guess those train rides are way longer than I thought they were. The most interesting thing here is a long letter from Nancy's mother, which is a nice story about Nancy's firm independence. The end of the letter says Kate hid a letter for Carson in the dictionary. I have to believe Revenant has already broken into the Drew house and stolen that letter. Kate says she left more than a few things behind for Nancy, but she refuses to say where. That's very unhelpful. In the ending, Nancy promises to find her mother's other letters, which feels like a sequel hook to me. The third letter of note here is from director Wright, chastising Ewan for changing the hotel's security level. Ewan's response is basically, "I'm gonna do it anyway, nah 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 nah." He helpfully included a picture of his new password. When Nancy returns to the hotel, Zoe says Ewan must be the culprit. Spoiler alert! Nancy will stay here and take care of Ewan, while Zoe and her team go through the city and locate the bombs. Bombs? Is this the first time bombs have been mentioned? Because I thought the bad guys were releasing a virus, not blowing things up. Zoe's team includes Moira and Alec, although they don't talk much during this ending segment. Nancy has to use Ewan's password to access the computer thermostat. Just like before, she changes the temperature to get Ewan's attention, then hides near the door. This time, Nancy uses the firewall controls to trap Ewan inside Area B3. Ewan says it's too late, he's already won. When Nancy asks why he's doing this, he says, "Because I can." That's all the explanation we get. I hate this culprit reveal. Ewan is a double agent who is willing to murder thousands of innocent people, and we never learn why or how. I was hoping for a minutes-long confession like the one in The Deadly Device, one that hits all the major details of the culprit's scheme, one that answers all the remaining questions like who kidnapped Moira, where is Alec's sister, what's up with all these messages Kate left shortly before dying. But no, all we get is because I can. It's like the developers put no thought into this, besides for, boy, it would be a cool plot twist if Ewan was the culprit. Let's do it! Zoe tells Nancy she needs to remove specific USB drives from the servers in this room. You get a simple puzzle finding them all. They're named after tartans for some reason. Next is a Sudoku-like puzzle where she has to put the USBs on a grid. There are no repeating colors in each group, row, or column. This is tough, but it seems fair to have the ending puzzles be difficult. There's an extra puzzle. Ewan reveals he's got a fifth bomb right here in this room. Why would he keep a bomb in his workplace? That's just asking to be killed. Maybe he wanted to blow up this room to destroy all the evidence of his crimes. With this final puzzle, you have to click 2 small squares, then a medium rectangle, then a large square. This removes all 4 squares from the board. The caveat is that all 4 consecutive pieces you touch must share a side. There are 3 rounds to the puzzle. I think it's a good puzzle to end the game on. Zoe compliments Nancy, then says she's leaving to help Alec find his sister. Geez, Zoe, maybe you should wait a minute before taking a new case? In the closing letter, Nancy says the formula has been destroyed for good, and Ewan was taken into custody. She guesses that Revenant tricked him into following their orders by making him feel important. I understand if Ewan felt unappreciated by his boss, but how do you get from that to I will help terrorists murder large numbers of people? Alec gets a job with Cathedral, Zoe goes back to whatever her spy job is, and Nancy will keep in touch with Moira. Nancy ends with kind words saying her mom is always a part of her life. That's great, but you know what would be better? Solving the mystery of Kate's death. So many times the game teased that there was more to her murder. That was major gaslighting. That's it for The Silent Spy. I enjoy the game, especially the cool spy moments and scenes of Nancy's mom, but it also has big problems that bring it down. I give Nancy Drew The Silent Spy a 7 out of 10.